Finance Committee for the month of May. I'd like to call it to order, please. The first order of business, Ms. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Bruce Paulson.
Here.
Don Pettit.
Here.
Ron Kinsley.
Here.
Tom Duffy.
Here.
Stacy Hessel.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Very good. And did we comply with the open meetings law?
The meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by section 18.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Okay, the agenda has been set. Are there any comments on the agenda? People want to move something up, down? All right, hearing none. Pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
Under God, indivisible.
Thank you. All right. Public comments, we'll hear public comments for items that are not on the agenda at this time. Alex, anybody out there that wants to make a public comment?
Only Ms. Pettit is on Zoom today.
Okay, all right. And then the next item is to consider approval of the April committee minutes. I would entertain a motion. Yes.
I make that motion.
All right, how about you be the second? Okay.
That's fine, sir.
All right, okay. So a motion's been made by Mr. Duffy, seconded by Ms. Pettit to approve the April minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, aye.
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 Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Now the winter, well, let me see, I gotta give my winter update. Is that, everyone talk about that? Is that he gonna talk to the whole board? I thought he was gonna, Mr. Pettit was gonna talk to the whole board, unless there's something you guys wanna talk about.
To the whole board, he said.
Okay, so we have any other comments about the winter depot? We get our money?
I don't have any comments. No, I'm still out for about 15,000 we're working on.
Okay, all right. But you'll let us know if we can help, huh?
Yep.
Good. The next item is the American Rescue Plan Act. And I did pass out a graph. Stacy, I don't think you have it.
Thank you.
This was a survey, I guess, Frank Lupal did, and it showed where the citizens wanted to spend the $3.2 million of county money. So that was about 1.5%, 2% of the citizens of the county are the ones that filled out the survey. So just for information. Tom, you want to talk about the American Rescue Plan?
Yeah, since we met the last time, we did get guidance from the U.S. Treasury. They produced a document that we're sifting through just to get further clarification on the original points that we had received before. They also opened up the portal, which is the mechanism by which we'll receive those funds. So Diane in Treasury got us signed up. Between her and I, we opened that portal for Sawyer County to receive those funds. So the next step is, we'll be receiving those funds probably within the next week. And then deciding the uses for those funds. So now with the U.S. Treasury guidance, we'll also have further interpretation of that through WCA. They've been analyzing this, and we usually have a call on Mondays with WCA, the legal staff at WCA, to discuss those kinds of things. But then we'll need to get prioritizing and figuring out exactly the best sources for those funds.
So how are you going to do the prioritizing?
Well, I think the first step is to review the guidance and see what is allowable. There was some question before the guidance came out about infrastructure. What is allowed? Can you do? A lot of the counties are talking about roads, and do roads qualify or not as infrastructure? And can you use it as part of the tourism line? So you got to get to these places. So can you fix a road? Right. Call it tourism dollars, and so those kinds of things we hope are in the guidance, because the original thought was just water, sewer, broadband infrastructure. And if that's the case, then that's fine, and we use that. And We certainly have a lot of broadband issues within the county. We are investing some funds in water sewer with the California Avenue project. So, maybe we can allocate some dollars that way, but then, the rest of the funds, of which we have until December 31st of 24 to spend, we get half of those monies like pretty soon, and then another half a year from now. So, working on the cash flow and the projects that would need to be developed and implemented, all has to happen within that 2.5 year period.
But Tom, I'll ask this, Tom, if you look at your recommendation, how do you recommend we spend the money? And then number two is, does the tribe get some extra money? Are they paying money?
Yeah,
they
so,
making
the
improvements on
county gets about 3.2 million. All the towns and the city gets, 100,000, 40,000.
Based on population.
Yeah, based on population. The tribe will also receive somewhere between 30 and 40 million.
Do you have some recommendation yourself as to how we should spend our money?
Well, again, not at this point, until we, make sure that we follow the guidelines and see what's done. But, the other trick is, the state is developing their budget. How much are they going to put forth towards broadband? The feds have some money coming for broadband. We don't want to spend all our money on broadband if it's going to be coming in from other sources. So there's going to have to be some coordination, not only between, the local or the governmental entities above us, but also, the town and the city, if we can coordinate efforts there as well. So a lot of different pieces to the puzzle.
So it seems that it's premature now to decide how to spend it and we don't have to really be in a rush to spend it and decide even how to spend it, do we?
Don't need to be in a rush to spend it, but everyone is getting dollars, and especially like broadband, there's only so many providers and only so much they can do, and everybody's going to be trying to spend money at the same time. So we need to get in line on some of these things that are going to get backlogged. So there's urgency in that sense. But again, we don't want to use our 3.2 million if the state's going to pay 3.2 million on broadband. So that's,
Well, are we having some coordination with the townships, for example? Are they looking at broadband?
we've heard from a couple, and I don't know if, Bruce deals with the broadband group. Maybe you have more insight as to where the broadband situation is.
Not a complete insight. I know the town of Linwood is seriously considering expanding their broadband, Spider Lake as well. So one of the EDC broadband committee's goals is to talk to each of the towns and tell them how much money they have and so forth. Spider Lake, I don't think was aware that they even had money coming. So do we know if all the towns know that they've got money coming?
I sent out a list to each municipal clerk.
Then you got it. Okay, perfect. So then, all right. So, but editorially, I mean, if I look at what we did with the courthouse, 2.5 years is not a long time. So we're going to have to personally get started as soon as we can. And do you have those guidelines, Tom, that the Treasury released?
Yes.
Just released now?
It was what day was that?
Wasn't very long.
Monday
ago.
or Tuesday.
It wasn't very long ago.
Yeah, a day or 2 or 3 ago.
Nate
It was Monday afternoon, I think, wasn't it?
Yeah, NACO's got them on their
Yeah.
website.
So WCA is going to look at them?
Pardon me?
WCA is going to,
Yes, yeah, WCA, and then our county administrators group too, and see what other ideas are out there. But internally, we'll need to figure out, and I don't know, if that's through admin or the county board, the process by which we sift all these things out.
right, no, I mean, I don't know either, but I just think we need to we can't be asleep at it. We're going to have to work on it hard quickly is my personal opinion.
Whose responsibility is this to start this ball rolling as far as where the money goes? Is this committee here or your job alone or what?
Well, I think, again, maybe we start that in admin, being the group that kind of oversees all the county things. And, if it's that group or another ad hoc committee or, some other process, that we develop These kinds of things are helpful, but, we still need to come up with projects. It's easy to say we're going to spend it on broadband. It's hard to get companies to actually do what we would want them to do to spend that money.
So
Well, what's our responsibility, I guess, whether it's something I'm getting at?
To
I,
support
Should
Tom,
we
I
be doing
don't know.
something or?
to support Tom.
but to maybe needle Tom a little bit, we
Support.
should decide,
Not needle.
we should decide, do we here as a county board, and how we want to approach it, how do we want to, set the priorities. And, I guess I would rely on Tom to come forward with some thoughts and recommendations based on his discussion with his peers in our area and WCA. Will we have access to the WCA? We shouldn't we? Deliberations and
Yeah,
for Monday.
yeah. We'll send out a link for the document that the U.S. Treasury put out. Were we going to put that on this
It's on
agenda?
the county board agenda.
It is, okay. But we can shoot that out individually as well,
Okay, yeah.
so that you can peruse that.
But there are some of the categories that we probably don't qualify for. I mean, we haven't lost any revenue because of COVID, have we?
I wouldn't say that, no. I mean, we can, that's the part that needs interpretation. It's like, how do you interpret lost revenue? Is it, like sales tax we came out okay on, but, maybe there were months where we didn't come out okay. Does that mean that, in those months, we can recapture some of that revenue? There's different areas that we'll look at. And the trick will be, not the trick, but the methodology of how you determine whether you lost revenue or not. And you need to look back at the last year. I don't know if it's budget or projected actual from last year compared to actual this year. And so if there's a deficit, can we recapture that? So it would be advantageous to recapture all of the revenue that we can, because then that money then kind of falls to the fund balance, and then you could use for any purpose. So there's advantages to recapturing as much of that as we can.
Right.
So that's something that we'll look at now that we've got more details on how that's recaptured.
So I think you said at one meeting, you were concerned about using this to offset operating deficits.
Right, so, using it strictly to balance our operating budget is not something that is allowed, nor is it reasonable or something you should do.
It's not ethical.
Right.
Right.
So, and so we do need to keep separate the operating budget from these funds, but recapturing revenue because we lost it due to the pandemic is one of the things that we can do.
All right, and
So we need to have it on the agenda again next month anyway.
yeah, absolutely, but, okay. I think we should talk to Mr. Tweed and figure out how we, the county board, wants to deal with this.
Is it on the agenda for next Thursday?
Yeah. Okay. The State Department of Revenue is not on here, they gave us some interpretations.
Yeah, the DOR, I believe that document is from the DOR. We've also been talking to the DOR specifically about some of our other budget woes, being the Winnebago situation and how that can be funded. But we can talk about that under our 22 budget discussion.
All right. So any more questions, comments on the American Rescue Plan? And as Mr. Kinsley suggested, we'll have it on the agenda for next month. If not, we'll move on to agenda item number 10. Mike, is that yours? You want to deal with that?
Just skip 9.
Do we do 9?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is Diane on?
9? Didn't we just talk about?
No,
No.
this is 9 now.
Pardon me?
This should be number 9 now.
Okay. All right, so where are we?
We're on number 9. If Diane's on, she can take it. If
She's not.
She's not. This is an account we had for Flex HRA stuff. We've switched to vendors now, and so we're no longer using that account. So I think Diane is just asking that we close out that account.
All right, I just updated my agenda so I can follow along.
I'll make that motion to close it.
I'll second it.
All right, motion's been made and seconded to close the account. Okay. Any discussion? Yes,
Just one comment, the statutes do provide that county board needs to approve the opening of an account. I think it's silent on closing an account, but it's prudent to, if you open an account, you better close an account just so that you know that things are closed. So that's why it's on the agenda here.
okay. All right. So my iCompass has a different agenda than this agenda.
It was changed and then I printed those original copies, so yes, sorry about that.
Okay, all right. So now I'll follow along with this one, okay. Next item then is the budget amendment, is that correct?
Yeah, my friend.
Oh, I'm sorry. All in favor to close the bank account? Aye?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. So, Tom, we don't need to move this to the county board, or what would?
Legally, you don't. I mean, if you want to, we can.
I mean, up to the rest of the committee, but I think we probably should let them take a crack at it. They don't do anything about it.
Yep.
Okay. All right. So now we're on the budget amendment for the tractor, the forestry tractor. Is that right?
Yep.
Oh, boy. Okay. Who wants to handle that?
That's something that came through Public Works. Public Works approved or recommended this go to the county board, so it's stopping in finance because there does require a budget amendment. The forestry tractor that's being replaced is, I believe, a 1981 tractor that does not have lots, rollover protection, something or other.
Ropes, ROP, yes.
Yep, okay. And our maintenance director looked high and low to see if he could get something that would make that safety compliant. Wasn't able to find anything. So then I told him to go ahead and look for a replacement tractor. He did find one that will suit forestry's needs. We get a good return on the 81 tractor through the trade. The funding for this comes from some fund balance in the forestry ATV account. And so it's being recommended for approval to replace that tractor, mainly for safety precautions and needs.
How much do they need?
Well, 14.5 is the net.
Yeah, so the-
Sure, I'll make that motion to approve it.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Duffy. Motion made and seconded. Is there any discussion on approving this purchase?
Just clarification, it came from forestry, not public works.
I think it did come from forest.
Yeah, sorry, I misspoke. I'm still thinking of last night's Public Works meeting.
All right. Okay, so the motion's been made and seconded, and discussion of motion. Okay, hearing none. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. That'll go on to the county board, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then if I got organized here, we're on to Finance Committee roles and responsibilities, is that? All right, I'm back on track. Okay, I guess this is a document, roles and responsibilities. This is required by, I think, our board rules that each committee should come up with their roles and responsibilities, and I think they go to the board for approval. This is, I guess, one suggestion for roles and responsibilities. Okay. Any comments or questions?
I would just, on number 4, under budget.
Yeah.
You know, when you talk about projected large, up to 25,000 or more. In terms of highway and human services, I would maybe recommend larger amounts. And with highway, it's difficult because they don't prepare a budget, so there's nothing to compare to.
Will they prepare a budget? Okay.
They prepare a big picture by area budget, but it's not broke down into line item, and they don't input it into the financial system.
Okay. So you're wanting higher review levels for those 2 departments.
Yeah, it's difficult in their cases to,
Pardon me?
it is difficult in their case to monitor from month to month, especially at a $25,000 level.
Should we be monitoring it even though it's difficult?
Should we be?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I know the committee, I know that committee, Human Services Committee, looks at it close every month. They look at both their budget and their contractual spending. That's where their
All right.
biggest dollars are. I mean, they can have a swing in vendors of $25,000 depending on people in and out of 25,000.
Well, do you want to take a crack at rewording this and bring it back next month?
We can look at it. I'm not sure how I would word it at this point. But
Who drafted this one?
I did.
You did, okay.
Yeah. 2018, I drafted this. So, what do you want to do about that, Mike?
Tom, you got thoughts?
Well, I don't have any problem unless the rest of the committee does, of letting Tom and Mike look at this and suggest revisions.
I'd like to vote this to chew on it also.
I'll second that.
If that's
Yeah.
acceptable.
Can we table it for next meeting? Is that what you're asking?
Postpone it, yes. Anybody have any tentative comments?
I thank you for taking time to put all that together.
You're welcome. All right, so this is going to be moved to the June agenda. If that's okay for everybody. Then Tom and Mike will give us some comments. And anybody else on the committee? Mr. Duffy, did you have any comments?
No, at the moment.
Okay.
We'll look at it. That's a good idea. To move it one, I think.
Yeah, we want to beat Slinder's committee's goal. All right, the next thing is the budget guidelines. I think the committee should approve these. These are standard, aren't they? All you do is change the date on the top.
Well, there's a little more to it than that. I mean, I'll let Tom speak to it. I just, under the personnel worksheets section, I just want to point out that these are kind of initial recommendations. They likely will change as we get farther down the road and we start speaking with health insurance companies and where we're going and what we can negotiate. And so these rates might change, but initially this is what we're setting up.
Right, but the personnel worksheets really come from you guys, right? I mean,
Yeah.
the individual departments don't do the personnel worksheets. So.
No, we do them.
So you prepare the personnel worksheets, send them to the departments, they work on them, and then they change as we negotiate insurance rates and things.
Yes. The benefits.
Any comments on the budget guidelines? Okay.
I'll make a few comments.
Oh, go right ahead.
Yeah, as Mike said, he prepares the personnel service worksheets, what we call them, where he computes by individual position, the cost for each of those positions, with their wage rate as it currently is, the insurance and all the other overhead that goes on with that. So we do fully budget positions, even though we know there, will likely be open positions as people come and go, which is fine. But we do budget full, which is a prudent way to budget. And that does help us, meet budget too when there's some underages because of those turnovers that occur. Speaking of turnover, in the staffing, it gets increasingly more difficult to hire staff and qualified staff, especially in certain areas. We aren't seeing the number of applicants that we've seen in the past, staffing not just for government positions, but for other businesses around. You see all these help wanted signs. There's it's a struggle to get employees and keep employees, and we have been increasing wages with a cost of living increase each of the last few years. So we've tried to keep pace. There's some areas that probably are getting away from us, those specialized positions. We haven't done a wage study in a while, nor are we suggesting one for next year, at least at this point. We know of at least one other county around us that is going to do a wage study, so that might provide a little bit more insight as to where some of those positions are going and how much they're being paid. But because we have a lot of our budget is personnel related, it has a huge impact on the way we budget. The other real concern going into next year is the health insurance rates. Obviously, with the COVID situation we had, the pandemic last year, kind of threw a monkey wrench into what was happening with utilization. And we've also had a few very large usages of health insurance, which does happen, but that's going to drive our costs up. So we've got 15% in there, which sounds hefty. We're kind of worried maybe that's not even enough, but even if we had a 15% health insurance rate increase, that would require what, 400 and some thousand dollars extra in the operating budget. So just to find enough to cover health insurance, leaving everything else equal, is just shy of $500,000. And compensation, if we did anything there, that adds on to the top, and then we just kind of keep going up from there. So as we always talk each and every year about the operating budgets and the struggles that we have, meeting budget, it gets more and more and more difficult under the constraints that we have. Our net new construction will be, in that $70,000 to $80,000 range. And then we need to fit everything else in there. So, some of the other things that we look at, obviously, health and human services, we've got significant cost drivers there that we continue to look at. One is our out-of-county placement costs. And the projected use of that facility is costing us, $1 million to $2 million a year, dealing with legislative changes or potential legislative changes there. But if not, what is Plan B and C and covering those costs? We've also talked in Health and Human Services about the facilities that the county runs being Oasis and Transitions, and the utilization in those facilities versus the cost of those facilities. And does that make sense to continue in that fashion, or does that need to be modified? So Health and Human Services is looking at those kinds of things, and it gets difficult when we're looking at those services that we provide in isolation. I mean, you take just for example, Oasis, and it's like, this is a group home that we run. Is it a good idea? Yeah, it's a service that we provide. It's a good idea. But it's turning out to cost us more money than our Sawyer County utilization. I think we've averaged 2 kids there over the last 5 or 6 years, yet we've got a guarantee of 6 beds in that facility. So we're spending, more money than maybe we could or should, but yet having that facility locally has its advantages too. So any of these programs that we look at has value. But then when you compare it to the other things that we do within the budget process, then that's when we need to decide, okay, that's a good service, but we can't afford to do it in that fashion. And so those are some of the things that we start to think about when we try and balance the budget, is how do we pare some of these services down into the budget that we can afford. And that's just an example, not to say that we're going to do this or that with that facility. It's still under discussion, but it's just an example of the things. It's always easy to look at a service and say, gosh, we need that. But then in the whole picture, we got to say, well, we can't do everything. So what are we not going to do? Workers' comp, we've got that potentially budgeted the same. We've had some good success in keeping those worker comp claims down. We've been really keeping a better eye on those. Rose Littlewood has done a good job on getting people on light duty and making sure that they come back to work when they're willing and able, not willing, but able.
Be nice if everybody was willing.
Well, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Yes. So those are some of the things just globally as we kind of go into the operating budget. On the capital side, we did start issuing debt for those capital items last year. In our 5-year plan, we continue to plan that out. And if there is any money, out of our 2.3 million that gets used for infrastructure or any other thing, it may happen on the capital side, not on the operating side, but there may be some things that qualify on the capital side. So we'll be working through that as well. So those are some opening comments.
Okay.
On this, on
Go ahead. I'll wait.
the Quick Trip had a work fair this last week for employees, talking about employees, and you know how many showed up? 0. So, it's tough to get employees that want to work. And I see now they've added a $500 bonus, sign-up bonus, to find employees, but nobody will apply. So,
I was going to stop over there myself.
yeah.
Could you tell me on the Oasis, do we get funds from other counties that send youth to Oasis? It's my understanding that we have other counties that send their kids there.
Yeah, so if other counties send kids there, then they pay for the costs of those beds that are used. And there's 8 beds at Oasis. So, right now we have 1 or 2 kids there, and there are 3 or 4 kids from other counties. So, that reduces our obligation to pay the 6. But if there were no out-of-county kids there and we had 0 kids there, we would still pay for 6 beds under the current government.
Right. Okay.
Okay. Any questions, comments on the 2022 budget guidelines? Have they been sent to the departments yet, or will they go soon?
By the end of the month.
Pardon me?
By the end of the month.
By the end of the
They're not
month,
going
okay.
yet.
All right.
Running it by committee first, and then they'll go out to
Perfect.
departments.
Any questions, comments? This is going to be another struggle, just like last year, to balance the budget, I would imagine. And I know you don't like the term, but you guys always work your magic.
We've got no magic left. Seriously, there have been things where we, have been able to kind of tweak things here and there, but, there's really no room left to do other things. So, it does get more difficult. And we say that every year, but we're serious this time.
You're like the bad dad.
Yeah,
We were putting our foot down this time.
yeah, right.
There's no more rabbits to pull out of the hat.
No, there are not.
Okay, any comments, and if not, anything else that people want to bring up for the good of the cause?
Can I make a request, Mr. Chairman?
You can certainly do that. Ms.
Can I
Pettit.
get a copy of the Zufall survey? Can I get it emailed to me, please?
Yeah, it's in the paper, the last week's paper, but you probably don't get it.
No.
Okay, well, we'll get a copy for you.
And then I would like to ask Mike regarding the winter fire, the winter depot. They owe the county $15,000 still?
Well, not the winter depot. It's actually through the state. It's through the Department of Transportation with the state.
Okay.
All right,
Do we still owe the money? Do we still owe the 15,000?
We don't owe it. We're waiting to receive reimbursement.
So hopefully we'll be.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, yeah. And I've been emailing back and forth with the contact our schooner.
Ms. Bennett, do you have anything else?
Nope, that was it, sir.
Anybody else? If not, we're adjourned. Thank you. We got an assignment.